All right, hello everyone. It's Raleigh, and we have some great news today. So it's really funny, actually. Yesterday on stream, I was saying, I'm like, oh, we're gonna get the PvP. I think the PvP thing is probably still going on. I haven't watched it. I'll watch it after the fact, but they were doing a PvP stream, which they had announced. But the funny part was that I was like, oh, we're not gonna get anything else, and then they dropped like the thing that I've been waiting on for so long. So we're actually getting a sneak peek at the story and the lore and like that type of stuff, like the Kodan. And I'm looking at the article. I haven't read anything on the article. Apparently, and I'm seeing it right here. There's red text where they talk about like light spoilers or whatever. So just so you guys know, there's gonna be some spoilers. If you guys don't want to be spoiled, I would not watch this video. We're gonna be talking about theories. We're gonna be talking about the involvement of different characters. I kind of scrolled through the thing and I saw a couple of pictures of characters, so I'm guessing they're going to be talking about the character involvement and stuff like that. So if you guys don't want to be spoiled, I wouldn't watch this video. I would like for you to watch this video because, it helps me out, so I appreciate you guys. And yeah, thank you guys for all the support. It's been very nice. A lot of people have been coming to the streams and discussions and like all the stuff. So we are working. I'm working on a bunch of different videos, and hopefully I will get something out at some point. But for now, we're gonna be doing these little things, and we're gonna be doing streams. So if you guys wanna, keep up with what I'm doing, make sure you follow those things. But let's talk about theory. So over the last couple of months, after the initial announcement was done, I had come up with some initial theories, and then I made a video the other day where we talked some more about theories that I had. So, and I kind of wrote these down a little bit, and these are not in any particular order. I just kind of, as they came to mind, I wanted to make sure that we kind of review these before we go into it, so that I kind of know where we can go. Like I said, I made that last video about the theories and stuff, kind of to add to the list of things so that we can, as we get information, we can kind of sort out and see where we go from there. So I did make early on when the trailer was released, one of the theories was that we would see the final piece of the Bloodstone. Because there was an area in the trailer that looked like Bloodstone Fen, kind of, where it's like all red in the area and there's like a giant crater. They're fighting like Bloodstone elementals in a crater. So I'm thinking like this is where they were digging out the last piece. The White Mantle were digging out the last piece of the Bloodstone or something. Something along those lines. Like I'm not sure, but I feel like we're gonna see the final piece because, and just so you guys know, in all the lore of Guild Wars, there has always been one piece of the Bloodstone that has been missing because we know that it was shattered into 5 pieces. Which we knew of 4 pieces, but we didn't know where the last one was, or something along those lines. Anyways, so we'll see some Bloodstone stuff, I have a feeling, with the White Mantle and yada yada. Then I talked about the Golden Lake of Janthir. The Golden Lake it's this very weird, like enigmatic, like object thing that they have where the Astral Ward leaders, the Warden, right, like has to drink a chalice of whatever in from the Golden Lake. And we've heard different things about the Golden Lake, and my theory was kind of, as we watched the trailer, that the environment, specifically the trees and stuff, kind of looked like they were infused with some kind of like golden, it was like a golden purple power. And my theory was that maybe it's had something to do with the Golden Lake. And that kind of was one of the things, because the new creatures that we see in the trailer are not outright to be set to be Titans. We know Titans are coming back, or at least a Titan is coming back. But whether those are designated as Titans is yet to be seen. But I'm thinking that there's something going on because their core of these, I keep calling them like wood elementals or bark elementals because that's what they are. They're made out of wood, and their core kind of glows with that same power. So my theory was something along the lines of like the Golden Lake. Something's going on with it. Someone is using its power to infuse the environment with like the magic of the lake, and it's kind of making the environment sentient, and that's where these creatures are coming from, something along those lines. So I think the Golden Lake is going to play a role, I think, maybe pivotal role as to what's going on. then I talked about the message from Guild Wars 1 that we got, which was this theory, that I've kind of been building. I mean, I had this theory for Secrets of the Obscure, and then I kind of took that and ended up not being true, but I took that theory a little bit further. But it's a message from Guild Wars 1. A spirit gives us a message about on distant shore, on a distant shore. I actually misread that in the video, but on a distant shore of a land unwaking, we'll find answers, or answers there lie in waiting, or whatever the text says, right? And my thing was, it talked about, like, it was almost a prophecy. So my latest theory on that is that it's a prophecy, kind of talking about beyond the dreams, beyond whatever it was in the text. Like, it's all like kind of the journey we have to take, and then now we're going to this land of this unwaking land. So that's kind of my theory, that we're going to see this solved somehow. I kind of involved a little bit with the Awaiting Sorrow, who is one of the Kodan as well. She's not, as far as we know, she's not a Lowland Kodan, because I think there's text that talks about how she is part of the Shiver Peak Kodan. But I don't know. We have never seen Waiting Sorrow, so we don't know much about her. But I kind of had that, and then it leaned into the whole how Kodan are linguists, or they have some kind of heavy focus on languages, because we've seen the spear skills use a lot of the written languages of Tyria, and even like the Guardian uses two separate languages in their skills, one being Ascalonian and the other one being Asuran. And then we see heavy New Crichton being used with the Elementalist, and then the Necro has a little bit of New Crichton. So there seems to be like a language focus, and I kind of talked about how the Kodan maybe, we know that they're this ancient race that have existed for a long time, and I feel like maybe there's some kind of connection with this message that we got from the spirit, which has to do with another language as well. So maybe there's some kind of connection there. I kind of pointed that out. Then I talked about how Janthir might be like an entity, and how we have seen the eye of Janthir, and maybe there's multiple eyes. That was another theory that I had. And I kind of leaned into, like, maybe we're going to learn about the center of the mists, or, I talked about the map of the mists, and how the eye of Janthir kind of looks like the map of the mists, and like all these things, and like the eye could symbolize, like, that Janthir, the sun, right? I had the whole idea of like space being the mist, and like the sun is the center, and that is Janthir, or he sits in the center, like maybe he lives within that realm that is the sun, or something like that. That was kind of my theory. I feel like we're gonna maybe learn a little bit about the myths and stuff, just simply because a lot of the things in the Guild Wars universe are kind of, they're almost like dependent on the myths, kind of. There's a lot of things that are like bound to the myths. A lot of things. Oh, a train's coming through. Sorry, guys. They were doing that earlier, and I was like, I hope that doesn't happen when I record, but of course it did. So that was one, and then Legavo. So we kind of talked about this recently, but Legavo being this the Scepter of Ore, right, which was a pretty prevalent item in Guild Wars 1 prophecies, but there was a whole story about like how we didn't know its origin, and so on and so forth, and we recently found out during Secrets of the Obscure that it's actually a seer artifact, and it is still in the hands of Livia, but it is now being stored like in the Wizard's Tower, but we don't know if it's still there, because that item can actually control Titans as far as we know. So is that going to play a role since Titans are coming back into the story? That was something we just recently discussed on stream, and I don't know. I mean, I would kind of hope to see the Scepter of War. I would really love to see it in Guild Wars 2. And I was talking about how I would love to see it actually be like a legendary staff skin or something, or even something that could be sold in the gem store or something. Like it's a model or skin that I would love to see for one of the weapons. Not necessarily a spear, but maybe a staff or something. Not scepter, it's too large of a item to be, it's called a scepter, but it's pretty large for a scepter. So, but yeah, so those are kind of the running theories that I have. There's a lot of other like small little theories that I have, but let's kind of let's read the article and kind of read through it. So just so you know, there's going to be spoilers. There's light spoilers apparently. So if you guys are not really interested in spoiling yourself. I don't really care. I would love to just know as much as I can as I go into the expansion. I'm one of those people. I'm kind of weird. I'm not spoilers don't really bother me because I'm one of those people that like if someone tells me the ending to something that it might ruin something for me, but I also think in I'm one of those people that I want to know how they get to that point, right? Like if they tell me, okay, this is how the story starts and this is how it's ending, and it's like completely like, someone that's going to spoil a story for you is usually a story that's kind of crazy or something that has like a weird ending, or it's something that's like, oh my god, how did they get from, this is like way different than what I expected, right? So my thing is always like, well, what's the journey? How did they get from point A to point B, right? And it's like that's kind of what I'm interested in. I'm not really interested in the like resolution of things sometimes. I don't know, it's kind of weird how I am like that. But anyways, let's pull up the article here. And just so you guys, that's why my face is like lit up because I have the screen right there. And like I said, Arena uses so much, like they use what they need to come up with a dark mode on their website because they use white so much, and it illuminates my face. Like, okay. Anyways, so the bare necessities, a peek at the Lowland Kodan and the story of Janthir Wilds, which is really interesting. I thought they might want to keep this like separate, where they like they keep these two things separate, but I guess not. I guess they're putting this together, so I don't know. Hey there, this is Indigo, the Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds narrative lead, so Indigo's back as narrative lead, and Chloe, the expansion's story design lead. So interesting that those are like it's I'm always fascinated by like the weird nuanced titles that these people have, where it's like it's interesting because I feel like they're not just like, yeah, I'm one of the developers here. I work on like all kinds of stuff. They have like very specialized names, a lot of these people, right? So like narrative lead, and then we have the story design lead. It's like, oh, okay. Those are like completely different things, apparently. Narrative lead and story design lead, I guess. I mean, I could see where they are different titles, but it's just I love it because I feel like they do that to make the people feel special. It's like, yeah, you have a special title, And it's kind of cool. I don't know. Um, We'd love to walk you through a high-level look at the Guild Wars 2 Janthia Wilds story to help set the stage for launch next month. Ooh, next month, I'm so excited. The story of Guild Wars 2 Janthia Wilds is a treasure trove of intrigue and lore, both past and present, and we'll be encountering a variety of allies and enemies as we venture into the long-awaited region of Janthir. We'll be picking right up where Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure left off. So, they talk about both past and present. And it's always funny how someone like me that's like super absorbed with the lore, and I play a ton of Guild Wars 1. We're currently doing a playthrough of Guild Wars Nightfall on the channel, if you guys are interested in watching that. But it's super interesting to me how um, it's like I always in my head, I always challenge the specifically Indigo, who is very knowledgeable about the lore and stuff about on like Guild Wars lore and stuff. I always challenge those people that are dealing with the story and the lore and stuff. I'm like, are you guys really picking up some nuanced, like weird things? Like I talked about the weird one quest that I've been talking about, where I've been making theories with this, the message that we got from the spirit, right, which was mentioned in Guild Wars 2 but never saw a resolution, and I'm kind of like hammering it down. I'm like, are you guys gonna do something with it? And it's like, why would they? But it's I don't know. It's just kind of how I am. It's funny. So please note, light spoilers ahead. We'll be teasing a little bit about the region and current affairs surrounding the start of the expansion. So if you'd rather go totally unspoiled, you'd best skip this one. No, we're not. Bridging Guild Wars 2: Secrets of the Obscure to get things going. Oh my god, it's some kind of car that was squeaking really loud. I'm like, what is that sound? To get things going, let's look back at last year. Following the end of the Dragon Cycle, Tyria had no idea what the ramifications would be. As we learned in Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure, Suwant's death caused a powerful blast of magical instability that fractured all sorts of magical forces and barriers within Tyria. It's funny that they say within Tyria, right? They're not saying on Tyria, because Tyria is supposed to be a planet, but it's saying within Tyria, meaning like within the realm of Tyria, meaning that the magic of the magic of Suwan seems to be what they're implying here is that it's the magic of Suwan only reaches the realm of Tyria. It doesn't reach across the mists, which is this veil, which is this divider, right, between other things. So Oreen immediately went to work reestablishing herself as a filter for those magics, and stability was quickly restored, but we've only just begun to understand the consequences of that transfer of power. So they're going to kind of talk about, so that was part of having the beacon of the ages, right? That was introduced, which was the Wizard's Folly Tower. It was I remember it was one of my biggest moments where I was just like, oh my god, I called this like right from the early trailer of Secrets of the Obscure. I knew that this would come back. But they established that that is one of these they have these towers around all of Tyria that kind of have this they build this, these towers maintain this barrier to other realms in the mists and stuff like that. And with this explosion, with this transfer of magic from Suwan to Oreen, kind of the whole blast that happened caused like this outage, and that was what made the Cryptus invade in the first place, because the World Spire and the magics that are used, as well there and whatever, like to veil Tyria from other kind of weakened because of that. I had to like be reset and all this stuff, and that's why the tower was taken over, because all of these things, it was almost like a magical EMP that caused like everything on the planet to kind of go out for a little bit, and it was enough for the Cryptus to say, let's invade, right? And let's do this because right now the magical defenses of the world, specifically what the Astral Ward has been doing, are weakened right now. So we're going to be dealing with this, I'm guessing. Right at the onset of Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure, the commander was thrown into uncharted territory. We learned that the World Spire, a powerful conduit forged by the wizard Iskarin, was fractured following that blast. It wasn't really fractured, right? Like, it still was in one piece, but I guess the magics were interrupted. The Spire was one of the few barriers sitting between us and potential calamity, and it only took a moment for the denizens of a parallel realm to worm their way in. And thus the commander was introduced to the long-fought war between the Astral Ward and the Cryptus. So, yeah, so kind of talking about that. Through the story of Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure, the commander aids the Astral Ward in rescuing the Wizard's Court while toppling the malevolent Cryptus King Eparch. While the fight against the Cryptus was won, there are a lot of stories left to be told about wizardly new friends. Quote-unquote friends. They're not necessarily friends, remember, they're just... We got to know some of them, and some of them we have gotten close with, and we maybe understand them more, but I feel like Iskarin is one of those where he doesn't get too close to people, and he keeps his relationships very platonic. That's why even his own wizards in his own court are not, like, they respect him for who he is, but they also don't see him as, like, this great person, because he has kind of a crappy personality. Let's get real, he's not the nicest guy, right? So, he's very weird. Eparch, or not Eparch, Iskarin is one of those characters where I'm like, I can't get a read on him. Like, I couldn't predict really what he would do in certain situations, because he says things, but then he does other things. Like, he talks about how he wants to defend Tyria, and it's all like he looks at the greater picture of a lot of things, but then when we are fighting the dragons and stuff, he has numerous times kind of like hesitated on actually intervening and stuff like that. And it's like, but isn't that what you're all about? So do you see what I'm saying? It's kind of like really weird how Iskarin says like one thing but then does something else. It's kind of strange. So I'm still trying to get a read on that. The Astral Ward has proven to be a worthy ally with a benign cause, but we've barely touched the surface of some of their more questionable choices. Right, that's exactly kind of what I'm talking about. Not to mention their cantankerous leader is Garen. We know they helped in some ways, but why didn't they get involved sooner? Where do we start with the Fractal Fiasco? Where do we even start with the Fractal Fiasco? Yeah, so that's exactly it. This is exactly what I'm talking about right here. It's kind of like, you know, why didn't they get involved sooner, right? There's so many missives where we saw, where we had dialogue in the Wizard's Tower and stuff where Iskarin wanted to get involved, but then it's like, oh, but then, he hesitated long enough for the commander to just kind of take care of things, right? And we took care of things because we are as the commander, we're, or the wayfinder or whatever, right? We are a person of action, and we don't just sit around and not do something. We literally are like, there's a problem, we're gonna go solve it. But with Iskaran, he seems to just kind of sit there and like have to think things over, and it's like, well, hesitation can lead to like some devastating stuff. You don't want to do that. And then also with the fractal, right? It's kind of messed up that these fractal experiments that they were doing, they created these fractals, and then these fractals like left containment or whatever, right? Were like, because of this magical EMP, kind of were thrown into the real world, and now these fractals actually exist, and so they have created people and scenarios and things in the world, and it's just really kind of messed up, like how all of this happened and whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see the ramifications of that, specifically the fractal thing. Time to pull us back to the present. While the commander, now the Wayfinder, was fighting back against Eparch and Nyos, the threat of the Cryptus didn't go unnoticed by the rest of Tyria. In fact, that threat was very much noticed, and nations started talking. At the start of Guild Wars 2 Janthir Wilds, the commander will receive an invitation to the inaugural meeting of the Tyrian Alliance, and oh boy, do they have a lot of thoughts about the latest demonic invaders. So, a lot of people in the community kind of questioned, what's the point of having a Tyrian Alliance when you have the Pact? But the thing also is that, you know, the thing that I think people are kind of missing is that those are two separate things. We're talking about, the pact is almost like like they take three orders, not most of the members, but they take a lot of the people from three different orders, and they make like almost like a military, like a specialized military force kind of thing, right? Like a militia of swords or whatever, right? There, I mean, they're as big as an army, but they've lost a lot of people over the years, and God knows how we don't really know the relationship between the pact and the three orders, kind of like how this has been going on. Like, are they fully integrated, or are they seem to still be their separate entities on their own? So there's almost like four entities, where it's the three orders and the pact, right? And some forces from the three orders might go to join the pact, but the pact is more of a hands-on military. Like, they go where things are needed, and it had to do with mostly the elder dragons. Obviously, they went where the elder dragon threat was. Right now, they probably are more of like this police force that will travel around the world. It's almost like we're playing Nightfall right now, and how the Sun Spears are supposed to be this military force that helps all of Ilona, right? So we have the Sun Spears that are there for all of Ilona, but then the different provinces have military forces of their own. Like, Cornan is very military focused, and this obviously is in Guild Wars 1, but it's kind of in that same sense as well, where the Tyrian alliance is an alliance between the nations, right? And that's not just involving military forces, but that's probably also talking about like intel and technology and import export of different things, and probably it's more specifically now talking about a defense of a threat on a more like not just military and bolstering our forces, but maybe finding a way to prevent and inform each other on other invasions, and from outside forces and stuff like that, right? And I think it's more widespread, where the Tyrian alliance is supposed to be this probably this larger scale thing than the pact is, right? Where the pact are only dealing with these three organizations, but now we're talking about the Tyrian alliance, kind of talking, all of the major races involved in this or whatever. So after everything the world has endured, Tyr's patience with destruction is limited. Yeah, I guess, right? Well, we want to keep some of the minutiae surrounding the Tyrian alliance under our hats for now, including our lavish host of guest appearances. Well, it's funny because they showed us a picture of everyone that's going to be there. So we know Scardy is going to be there. We know Anise is going to be there. Jenna is going to be there. We saw Counselor, what was her name? Counselor whatever. She's in the council chamber, and she's still wearing the same outfit for the Usuran representative. We saw her. We saw people were pointing out as well that in that picture with Iskaran, that they released, where all the people of the Tyrian Alliance, they there was whatever her name was from Cantha. She was the representative, and I kind of talked about, oh, that looks to be like the Canthan representative, and it was, but people pointed out that it was the oh my god, I can't even think of any of the names, but it's one of the Tengu. She's one of the she appears in the story a couple of times. I forgot her name, but I guess people were saying that that's her. I didn't really remember what she looked like, so it was kind of whatever. But we kind of already knew the most of the hosts or guest appearances, right? That we were like the people that we're gonna see. We kind of have already seen. In addition to providing the player with a new directive, the Alliance also gives us the ability to demonstrate Tyr's growth outside of the main story path. So this is really important. Recently we've been talking about, and it's a video that I would like to make. I haven't worked on it, but there's a video I would like to make where I could see an expansion in the future that is, I called it Return to Tyria, where we kind of deal with, just story-wise. I mean, I'm not going to get into the mechanics of, what all of this entails. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but the main story part of it was that we would be dealing with the outcome of a lot of these things, like what's going on with the Savari after Heart of Thorns. We don't really know, right? Like the Nightmare Court and stuff like that. What about the Svanir now that Jormag is gone? The Ghosts of Ascalon we haven't really dealt with since season 2, and like what happened after that, because they did talk about how, like, oh yeah, a large majority of them were sucked into the mist, but like, is that threat still there? Flame Legion now being part of the legions again, is that like, is Ascalon kind of alleviated of that problem? All the like localized threads, right? Like, what is the Inquest up to? We haven't really dealt with the Inquest, but like, is there some kind of plot going on? Those types of things. I think it's kind of important. So if we can get a little bit of detail on that right now for Janthir Wilds, that would be kind of nice. But I would like to see something that's more specialized in resolving some of these things and giving us answers to some of those questions. What's happening in the rest of the world? How are things progressing when we're in the thick of adventure? Yeah, so that's going to be very interesting to hear. I think that's going to be front-loaded. The expansion is going to be very front-loaded with that info, because the first thing we're going to do, probably the first story instant we're going to go into is this meeting, and it's probably going to be about the progress on around the world, and we're probably going to find out who they elected Khan because as far as I remember in that Isgaran picture that we saw for Janthir Wilds, they made sure to not show a Char in there. And I think we're gonna see whoever the Char leader is, whoever the Khan is probably gonna be there. If they have elected a Khan. So I think we're gonna get some really cool info on that, which is gonna be super, super fun to see who they have elected and what after the Civil War, that was, during Icewitch Saga. Like, Icewitch Saga did a lot of things wrong, and Icewitch Saga was very detrimental in a lot of ways. But one thing that it did do was it really progressed the story of the Char in a major way. And it'll be interesting to see how that has kind of resolved now that we have stepped away, right? Because we ended up going after Icewitch Saga. We ended up going to Cantha, right? We went all the way across the unending ocean to Cantha, and then after that, we went and dealt with Seekers of the Obscura and all that stuff there, right? So it's been a while, and it's going to be interesting to see what's happened there. The Greater Janthir region. One of the results of this first Tyrian Alliance meeting will send the commander and a very small team of allies into the dangerous wilds of the Janthir region. I'm really happy, by the way, that we're going to see Anise come back into the story. I love her. She's one of my favorite characters. Her snarky, quirky, quippy manner, but also she does it in like this very sophisticated way, right? Where she's very like snobby about those things. It's going to be really interesting to have her back in the story. I really like her, and I'm very excited to see what they do with her, as well as maybe seeing Livia and their interactions and getting more, history on the things going on there. Dangerous Wild. Okay, starting due north of Divinity's Reach over the Crichton border, the initial focus of our mission is to establish a diplomatic connection with a small faction of Kodan. The Lowlanders, while hesitant, welcome us into their village. We spent some time getting to know their culture as we explored the lowland shore, which we'll dig into a bit more in a moment. Yay! Exciting. So we're going to learn about the Lowlanders, the Lowland Kodan. which is due north. So kind of a lot of people have been talking about how the on the world map right north of Divinity's Reach is the delta, the river delta, and the first image that they have ever teased us for Janthir Wilds. Apparently, the original file name had delta in it, and the only delta that we have ever seen on the world map was this one north of Divinity's Reach. So a lot of people were like, "Oh, we're going there," and that was kind of, it was that theory, or it was something like pre-searing Ascalon or something. And then we found out that we are going north of Divinity's Reach. Um, and yeah, and I mean, I'm just really excited to be going like right north of Divinity's Reach. Just so you guys know, some of you might not know this, but Lake Doric. Okay, so we know Lake Doric was added during season 3. So originally there was supposed to be a Lake Doric map that was supposed to be all the so you know how Queensdale is pretty much the southern part of Divinity's Reach. Um, so the original Lake Doric map that they had planned, there was actually a map that they had worked on. I don't know if it's still available in the files or not. There is a video by Wooden Potatoes from a long time ago where he actually explores this map. I think this map might still be available because I remember looking at it some years back. I actually went and you can like look into the files and stuff or whatever. I don't remember how that all worked, but I can picture it in front of my face. Like I can see it, how the map looked. But it was supposed to be it was a massive map that was supposed to wrap all the way around the west, north, and east side of Divinity's Reach, like all around Divinity's Reach. That was supposed to be the Lake Doric map, and it was supposed to be an actual lake all around it. But they had all these villages all around, and all these villages all around. So it'd be interesting to kind of maybe go back to that old map that they eventually then redid into the Lake Doric map and only took part of it. But if we're gonna see something directly north of Divinity's Reach, it'll be interesting to kind of see if maybe they took some inspiration from this old map and maybe took some of the parts there for the southern part of this map, because it's probably going to reach far north. I feel like this region, this lowland shore or whatever, is probably going to reach pretty far north. But it'll be interesting to see maybe if there's some connecting things from this old map from way back when. Partway through the story, we'll be pulled even further into Janthir. That's when we'll make our way into the Isles themselves. The bay is rich with history, bloody, brutal, sullen history. So probably talking about White Mantle and stuff like that. And we've never strayed too close until now. We know that Saul and his fledgling White Mantle went to the Isles in search of something, leaving with an eye of Janthir. We also know that other conspicuous figures have ventured into the region too. On the first island we reach, Janthir Sintry, will begin to unravel the tragic history behind the ruined village of Gavral. Okay, so yeah, we have heard about the Saul, and yes, this is exactly right. So Saul became just kind of review. So Saul was this he was this thief, he was this whatever. He ended up getting exiled. He was this kind of criminal, low life criminal, whatever. He had like gambling and addiction and stuff. And he ended up getting exiled from Kryda. So they kind of took him into the forest. They released him into the forest, and he ended up venturing through the forest. And he was supposed to kind of starve, but he ended up finding a city of the Mersad, okay, which with golden spires or something along those lines, with these spires reaching into the heavens. We've never seen this Mersad city, but he found this somewhere in like outside of the forest. He said that, or the story says that he came out of the forest and there was a city in front of him. And they took him in, and the Mersad took him in, and he started worshiping them. So he came back when the Char invaded Kryda. He brought these unseen gods, right? Because you can only see Mersad if you are closer to the stars or if you have ascended or something like that. So because they like have this ability of like phasing out of reality or whatever. And so he comes back with these Mersad in tow, and he becomes this hero, kind of. And he at some point he then he establishes the white mantle and stuff like that, and shortly after he leaves to go to Janthir to get the Eye of Janthir, right? He goes to the Isles of Janthir to get, and comes back with the Eye of Janthir. We don't know if he went there for the Eye of Janthir, but we know that he went to the Isles at some point and came back with the Eye of Janthir. Um, and it's we also know that other conspicuous figures have ventured into the region too. So it's going to be interesting to hear about this, because during season 3, when we deal with Codicus, right? He's the confessor. He gets revealed during the first episode of season 3 to be the confessor of the White Mantle, the new confessor, as because we did meet a different confessor at some point in the story, way early on in the person's story. But he's at that point the confessor of the White Mantle, which is the leading head of the White Mantle. And uh, he is set to, when we fight him, or when what is it, like when we I think it's like after, yeah, so it's after Lazarus, right? We see Lazarus, but it's actually Balthazar, but it's the fake Lazarus kind of appears. The White Mantle is kind of split between the people that are following Lazarus, because he's Mersad, right, and the fake Lazarus, right? But he's Mersad that they've been trying to revive, and blah 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 blah, or whatever. And that's his, that's the god, that's their god or whatever. But then Codicus had made sure that they couldn't summon Lazarus, and he's like, "Oh, you're not a real god. Like I'm in charge." Blah blah blah. So the alliance, the whole faction of White Mantle gets fractured a little bit, and some people following Lazarus and some following Codicus. And but it's said at some point, when we actually then go to fight the White Mantle during the Lake Doric story, that at some point the that Codicus had left for the, I think that was during that story, that at some point he had left to go to the Isles of Janthir. We don't know if he ever made it there, because when we then find him, he's actually in his manor, in Beetleton. And it's like, okay, did he go to the Isles of Janthir? We don't know. So are they talking about him? Or are they talking about someone else? I recently brought up, because someone was saying like, oh, we're gonna see White Mantle maybe, right? Because they kind of hinted that during the story. And there is actually some interesting aspects to that, because the White Mantle might not be completely wiped out, first of all. And we do have Minister, what's her name? Minister Estrelle, something like that. She was one of the people that was there doing. Does she get killed during the story of Lake Doric? I'm not sure. During season 3, I thought they'd take her. Maybe they don't take her prisoner. So I'm not sure, but there might be like other leading heads of the White Mantle that have escaped, because I think they did take some of them prisoner, like after the story step where we defeat Codicus and stuff. So it might be that maybe some of them have like escaped or something, and are, maybe there is like the small faction of White Mantle that have, like, after the defeat of Codicus, like fled to the Isles and kind of have remained there. We don't really know, but we'll have to see who they're talking about. And then this village of Gavro, I don't think we've ever heard of this village. Tragic history behind the ruined village of Gavro. So we don't really know what this is. This might have something to do with Saul or something. Like maybe that's a village that he has established or something. But yeah, Janthir Century is the second map. So, but that's good spot to pause, because most important, bears. So we're going to talk about the Kodan next. But yeah, so that's kind of they're kind of giving us an interesting look into what's again, ArenaNet likes to use a lot of words to not give us a lot of info. I mean, I have talked about a lot of stuff, but all of that stuff is something that's already in the game. So not really that many new things here to talk about or whatever. But it's interesting that they say they went there in search of something. I think that's one of the biggest parts. Like, what were they searching for? And they came back with the Eye of Janthir. Again, kind of think about those things as we talk about the theories of Janthir, the Eye of Janthir, myths. What could this all mean? Whatever. All right. Anyways, let's talk about the Kodan. One of the most exciting things to dig into has been our new faction of Lowland Kodan, who have called Janthir home for many generations. Despite the region being viciously dangerous and inhospitable, they are expert survivalists and have carved out a comfortable, even cozy way of life in these lands. All Lowlanders are capable fighters and learn survival tactics from the time they are cubs. The Wayfinder will spend much of their time in Janthir learning about and learning from the Lowlanders as much as they what as they have much to teach. Jesus. As a population isolated from their northern Kodan cousins for so long and living in a much different environment, they're a little different than the Kodan we're familiar with. Perhaps the most notable difference lies in their spiritual belief system. So we've kind of talked about this because the Kodan of the Shiver Peaks, right, of the far Shiver Peaks and stuff, they believe in Koda, who is this god that created the world or whatever, and they believe that Koda has set them on a path that they're almost like very they're very like stuck up because they think that Koda has set them on the path of bringing balance to the world, and they're the only ones that can do it, right? So they have this really weird, like skewed way of looking at. They think that a lot of other races are inferior to them, and that they have to teach the world because they're guided by Koda. There's this like really weird thing with the Kodan, but many of them are not necessarily like that. They're not all stuck up and whatever. They're sometimes a little condescending when you talk about their philosophies and the things that they believe in balance, because there's actually a heart in Frostgorge Sound where you can deal with the Kodan and you can kind of find out a lot about their ideas of what balance is and stuff. And they actually ask you, like, they give you like these riddles. It's like, oh, okay, if you're faced with this situation, what would you do? And you get like multiple answers that you can do, and only one of them, I think they give you like 3 different answers you can usually pick from, and only one of them they agree with. But like many of them, it's kind of weird because it depends on like the perspective, and like the more like we need more context in order to really figure out what's going on. It's kind of weird. It seems like they're almost judgmental, where they're like, oh no, this is the direct answer and you need to learn a lot more. Like, it's kind of weird. It's like kind of strange. But we do know that this believe in balance and Coda and stuff like that. We have already heard that the Lowland Coda believe more in nature and the sun and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how this differs. Unlike other Kodan who revere the will and balance of Coda, the Lowland Kodan hold in reverence the environment, the relationship they maintain with it, and the responsibility they have as stewards of the land. So they're more of like these almost like druidic shamanistic people, kind of, it sounds like, where they have this relationship, right? We have druids in the world of Guild Wars, and those are these people. As far as we know, there were humans at some point that kind of went and wanted to become one with nature, and they ended up becoming these spirits, these druid spirits, right? And it's kind of, it almost sounds like these Lowland Kodan have like the same kind of thing where they want to live out in the environment, and the land, and Tyria like is kind of their Mother Nature is kind of like their leading spiritual whatever, rather than viewing themselves as enlightened protectors chosen by Koda. So that's exactly what I'm kind of talking about. The other Kodan from the far north, they see themselves as enlightened protectors chosen by Koda. That's a great way to put that, right? They see themselves as these like, oh, we have to teach the world because we're chosen by Koda, and we have to protect the world, and we have to teach other races. It's a very condescending look, towards other races, I want to say. Lowlanders act out of duty to maintain a necessary balance in a harsh place, where taking is easier than giving, and survival can be difficult. Okay. These differences trickle down through other aspects of their society. Kodan leadership is typically a partnership between a spiritual mouthpiece of Koda called a voice and a physical protector called a claw. I don't think I need to explain that. It's kind of the same self-explanatory. However, the Lowland Kodan have a claw as their sole leader. Claw as their sole leader. Interesting. A feature of their society that goes back as far as anyone can remember. The claw is not without balance, though. A council that represents key roles in the village lends the claw perspective and advice. So where they have the other Kodan have a partnership of a mouthpiece of Koda, the voice. So the voice is in the story of Guild Wars. They're supposed to be like connected to Koda. They're supposed to hear what Koda want, like the will of Koda. They seem to be connected to the will of this god Koda, and they kind of they talk about it or whatever. They talk about the will of Koda, right? They voice the will of Koda, and then they have the claw, which kind of enacts a lot of these things. They're like the physical representation of the will of Koda in a way, and it seems that the lowland since the lowland Kodan have stepped away from Koda, there's no necessary no there's no voice, no need for a voice, because they're not listening to some greater being or whatever. They're kind of, they're all about nature. So it just became, at some point, it was just a claw that they had. But they do have almost like a council. It's almost, it's like I'm guessing like a democracy of sorts, where they have like different council members that represent like, maybe different factions of the, different smaller factions, or maybe different aspects of different things in the village or whatever, that kind of lend the claw perspective and advice. As the Wayfinder spends more time with the Lowland Conan and begins to earn their trust, we'll gain more glimpses into their lives and their history as denizens of Janthir. So it'll be really interesting to see more of the Coda. They're hanging out with the War Claw here. There's a waypoint in the background. But yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see how they fit into the world of Guild Wars. It's always interesting when we see a new race that we have never seen before kind of step into the light and take like, there's like something to be said about like new things coming into already an established world that is so huge, and especially something that's like, these aren't Sylvari that have only been alive for like 30 whatever years, but these are established, like these are some of the more like ancient. I mean, these might be older than any other race, really. Like I mean, they could predate, they could be considered one of the ancient the elder races, right? Mersat, Seer. How do they fit into that? Were they there as well? Were they back then, 10,000 years ago? Were the Lowland Kodans still like there already? We don't know. We don't know how ancient they are, but how do they fit into the world of Guild Wars? It'll be interesting to see. Heading north to Janthir, the inhabitants of Tyria are on the cusp of a new era. It's time for nations to rally and work together on a more global scale. Those seeds of alliance were planted under the threat of the Elder Dragons, but the need did not end with the Elder Dragons. As new threats rise, it's good to have friends on your side. What better place to start than with people living next door? The Lowland Kodan might prove to be valuable allies if we can earn their trust and convince them it's worthwhile to join the global conversation. We're so excited. We're so excited to give you some first looks into the narrative of Janthir Wilds. There's so much exciting lore and history to dig into and build upon with new stories. We can't wait for all of you to experience it. So it's interesting. They don't give us like it's in light spoilers. I mean, they're very light spoilers, very light, because we're not really getting like what do we know about the story that we didn't really know already. We knew about the Tyrian alliance. We figured based on the pictures that we saw that we would get a meeting. So that's kind of what they've been talking about. So the first part, they kind of, this is all stuff that's happened, right? This is all stuff like the first part of this article kind of talks about everything we've already known. So that's, whatever, kind of a review of how this expansion fits into this next expansion. But then we get a couple. We actually get only pretty much two. We get this part and this part, because then they do not tell us anything here. They kind of just wrap up their thoughts here. So we only get like 2 looks into certain things. And how much do we really like? Let's kind of review how much we really got, right? We know that we're going north of Kryda. We already knew this. They're hesitant to welcome us, which I guess we could have figured. I mean, whatever. Partway through the story, we'll be going further in. Saul and the Eye of Janthir. So we're gonna see something about the White Mantle. We kind of knew this already. I mean, we I think we get more confirmation now that the White Mantle are going to be involved, but it kind of feels like we've already knew this a little bit. We know the one interesting part is going to be the tragic history behind the village of Gavril. So that's going to be interesting to see. And other conspicuous figures that have ventured into the region. So I think those two are some interesting parts, to key bits that we got that is gonna be very interesting to find out about, as well as the bloody, brutal, and sullen history of the region. They call it the Bay. So I think the third map is probably going to be deeper into the Isles. I would think. I'm not sure, but um, so that's kind of the Janthir region stuff. And then we're talking about bears here. And how much do they give us here for these guys? Are capable fighters, survival tactics, spend much time. I mean, we kind of figured this, that they were capable fighters, because we learn the spear thing. And every time we've seen one of them, they usually carry spears around with them. So they seem to be capable fighters. Spend much time learning from them. We knew this. I mean, we know that there is a mastery line that deals with the Kodan, so I guess we're going to learn something from them, including the spear thing. They're a little different. Yeah, so we kind of hear a little bit about, again, the Arena uses a lot of words to not give us any information, because I feel like this entire paragraph doesn't really give us that much info, because they talk about their belief system is different from the other Coda. And they are more about like maintaining balance in a harsh place where taking is easier than giving, and survival can be difficult. Why can't I read that part? And that's earlier I was messed that up too. So again, they're kind of saying like, oh, they're different from the other Kodan. Okay, okay, that's fine. But then we do get one snippet of info here that they don't have a voice and a claw, they just have a claw with a council in the village. So those are the only details that we get. I mean, it's interesting because it's now kind of sorted, and I think some of the things that we have, some of the things that we have talked about are kind of confirmed now, which is nice to have the confirmation. But again, we didn't get that much of detail, really. It's not like we got like, oh my god, the crazy info is here or whatever. But yeah, so we get some more pictures that we can kind of look at, right? We've kind of seen, I don't know why that closed it out. So we see a little bit. So there is, this is definitely, if we look up here, so let's kind of look at that as the last bit here, as we're getting close to an hour almost, and I gotta upload this and stuff. But we have this part right here, which is very reminiscent. We didn't see much of this in Guild Wars 2, but in Guild Wars 1, not the White Mantle, but the Mersat structures were made out of jade, right? Remember, we have jade constructs that we fight during season 3, but a lot of their structures are made out of this jade. You can actually, if you guys feel so inclined to kind of find out about it, but you can watch my playthrough of Guild Wars Prophecies. I have multiple videos of it on the channel. If you go towards like the end where we're on the Fire Island chain, you see a lot of structures of the Mersat there. And they all look like this. So it looks like, but this is interesting because this is almost like it's built into the rock. So my theory, and this was something that I've had for a long time, and I think a lot of people kind of had this, when we're talking about the lore. Janthir Wilds on the world map, especially in Guild Wars 1, had almost this this purple hue to it, right? It almost looked like, it was almost like the rock there was purpley. And I showed you guys, I had like AI generated some pictures for the early video, and where we talk about theories and stuff like that. But the thing is that that's what I kind of imagined the Isles of Janthir to look like. Was a lot more purpley. But then we haven't seen this at all in any of the trailers, but we do get it here. So the structures by the Mersat that are built by the Mersat are built out of the jade, right? This like dark black and purple jade that they kind of have, and a little bit of reddish is there as well. If you look at some of the Guild Wars, if you look at some of the Guild Wars 1 structures, it's red, purple, and red that they have, like kind of the colors that make up the structures or whatever. But we haven't seen this. We don't know. Is this like something they magically create? Is this like a magically like magic crystal that they somehow like conjure up or something? But it seems like they actually mine this. It looks like it's like around here, and it's kind of weird because you can kind of see some rocks, like it looks like rocks floating, or maybe this is vines right in front of it, but it looks kind of white. It looks almost like the rocks here, so I don't know what's going on there, but we can definitely see some of this jade, right, that they have, the jade that they use in their structures and stuff. So we do see that. We see that, we have seen this quite often. This is a Leviathan skeleton. This is the trailer kind of pans over this bay area that's raining, which I've kind of talked about how you can differentiate the two maps in the trailer, because anytime they show the lowland shore, it's not raining, and anytime they show Janthir Sentry, it's raining. So you guys can kind of see when it's raining, we're seeing Janthir Sentry, and when it's not raining, it's Lowland Shore. So this is probably the lower part, the entryway as we venture north into Janthir, into the Isles of Janthir. This is the Bay of Janthir, right outside the watery part and stuff. So we see that there. Jenna and Anise, I don't think there's anything interesting here. Again, this is in the guild building in Guild Wars 1, I'm sorry, guild building in Lion's Arch in Guild Wars 2. We've already discovered that that's what the room looks like, where the meeting is held. So just expect that is where the expansion is going to start. It's going to be starting right at that guild representative building, the guild headquarters. What do they call it? The guild something headquarters, whatever it's called. But it's that main building on the east side of Lion's Arch. That's probably where we're going to start the story. Then we see more of this village, the Kodan here. Looks like a training area. We're probably, I'm guessing probably we're going to learn how to use the spear from them, and it's going to be like, oh hey, yeah, you can practice on this cuddly looking bear. They're gonna fight you, and yeah, we've seen I feel like we've seen this scene kind of quite a few times. We've seen the training area. I don't know if we've seen exactly this scene, but it's probably a different part of the training area. Some of the Kodan, they look different, right? I love the different models that they have, because this Kodan looks very different to these guys. These guys don't look as fluffy. Like, they don't look like they have, this looks like very fluffy. Like, the head is very like big, and it's like very reminiscent of like a brown bear you would see out in the wild or whatever. Where this is like a little, like, it looks slimmer and it looks smaller, and it looks a little bit more like the Norn transformation of the bear transformation that we see. So it looks a little bit more like that, but we get the same waypoints that we had in Secrets of the Obscure. We have that Warclaw, the cat-like Warclaw looking thingies. We see some crates. It's like a bear paw print, so that might be their like village logo, right? Like everyone has like a symbol or logo or whatever, right? So that might be theirs right there, I'm guessing. And the last picture, again, here we have these like, I talked about how these might be like hot springs or like sulfurous. Is this part of the, is this maybe like the golden lake of Janthir, but it's like the water is gone or something? Like, we don't really know, but here we actually see this infusion of this weird energy that's going into the cores of these elementals that we see, these titans or bark elementals or wood elementals or whatever they are. The cores that they have the same energy in them, right? And we see all the trees have this, which means that the trees around here have like absorbed this power from the ground, which, again, my theory is that like this might be actually the golden lake of Janthir, and just the waters have like evaporated or something, or have been, the has been like used in some kind of magical thing or whatever, right? Like maybe the explosion, the magical EMP that we talked about earlier, maybe caused something to happen at the lake of Janthir, the golden lake of Janthir. We don't know, but that's kind of my theory. I love that they show that as the very last picture, because I have a feeling that that's going to become very important for this. So but anyways, we're approaching almost exactly an hour now, so I think I've talked enough. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, I probably missed a bunch of stuff, so if you guys have any thoughts, let me know in the comments down below. Let's just do this and get this off of my face. So, but yeah, thank you guys so much. And if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, I would really appreciate it. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I will see you guys probably back on Sunday. And I'll probably do some Guild Wars 2. I wanted to do some Dungeon Rush stuff because I haven't done that. And we can discuss, like, all the stuff that we've kind of heard about. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you then. Bye, guys.